We start with the game that is on everybody's radar in the Pac 12. Vegas on Friday night. You can watch this on ABC. It is number 5, Oregon, number 3, Washington. The Ducks opened as a 9.5 point favorite in this game. Garrett, that seems disrespectful to Washington. And yet, all of us were very, very hesitant, shall we say. A lot of thought went into our picks against the spread. Why is Oregon favored by a comically large number?
Well, I mean, you have the initial shock value and all of us sitting around going, whoa. And then we all kind of sat there. If you're like me, you sat there and you went, well, hang on a second. There might be some merit to this because, I've been saying this for weeks now at this point, and I'll continue to make my case here. I think Oregon looks like the much better team since the game that they lost against Washington. When you look at the way both teams have played, Washington has played a lot of really close games, a lot of common opponents. They've beaten by, a couple of points, whereas, Oregon's gone out and beaten those teams by a couple of touchdowns. And, when you just look at what they've been able to do offensively, it looks like they're a lot more in rhythm. Defensively, Oregon, I mean, just dominating the lines of scrimmage. They only gave up like 50-something yards to Oregon State the last game of the season, and that's a team that runs the football extremely well. They dominated the line of scrimmage there. And so I think that when you look at this matchup, there's going to be a lot of different ways that you can try to judge this. Are you going to go just Bo Nix versus Michael Penix, right? That's kind of the casual take. Just look at the quarterbacks. That's about it. But I start to look around the field and I say, there's a couple of running backs in Oregon's backfield that I think could be a real difference maker. There's, if you're looking at the whole Troy Franklin versus Rome Odunze, matchup, that's 2 wide receivers that are going to have to go head for head. Whoever has the bigger day makes the better plays. You're probably watching some stuff go on there that's going to tell you the, outcome of this matchup. And additionally, looking at the defenses, right? Washington, the defense has been solid, but has kind of disappeared in moments. Oregon's defense, I think, has been a lot better down the stretch. So when I look at this 9.5 points, I honestly kind of think it's fair. You got to remember this matchup earlier in the season was at Washington. Neutral site field is, I think, factoring into a lot of this. And back in that game, a thing that a lot of people forget, they failed to convert several 4th downs, did Oregon.
Yeah.
If they had just taken the points, kicked the field goal, not turned it over in, massively plus territory for Washington, they would have put themselves in a better position to win down the stretch. And that last second field goal that barely missed wouldn't have been such a big deal.
Trey, I go to the metrics for this to understand. Okay, what is Vegas seeing besides just America's desire to bet on Oregon for much of what Garrett said? Right, Oregon has looked like the better team. Washington seemingly has fallen asleep at the wheel during numerous conference games this season. But I go to the metrics, and obviously these 2 offenses are incredible. Right, Oregon has the second best total offense. Washington is a top 12 offense. Defensively, though, the numbers are jarring. Oregon, no matter which way you slice it, is a top 50 defense. They average to be about a top 25 defense. Washington is none of that. And in fact, they have one of the worst passing defenses in the country. It's 124th. But you dive into the numbers a little bit more, and I think there's a chance that Washington keeps it close, specifically enforcing turnovers.
Yeah, Washington is the classic bad but opportunistic defense, right? Like they're going to give up a ton of yards. They're probably going to give up a ton of points, but they're going to get a few key plays every single game that's going to keep them in the game and help swing the tide in their favor. They have 15 interceptions this year. They have a really talented, it doesn't look it when you're the 124th ranked passing defense yardage wise, but they've got talented guys back there that can make plays, get some takeaways and really shift the game in their favor. So I'll also say that down this stretch run, they've been winning with the defense. They have not won by blowing people out with the offense like they were at the beginning of the year. They've completely flipped, and now they are winning with defense. Michael Penix has been in a little bit of a slump over the last month or so, and the defense has picked up the slack. They've been aided by the elements at times. They've been aided by opposing quarterbacks making some silly mistakes that I don't think Bo Nix will make, but sometimes the Washington defense can bait you into that. So it'll be really interesting. obviously Oregon's defense is going to be one of the better units that's on the field. They might be the best unit that's on the field. And that's, saying something when you look at these two offenses. But I love that we have Dan Lanning, a defensive guy, going up against Kalen DeBoer, an offensive guy, two of the best in the country on their respective sides of the ball. And they're going to have that chess match back and forth all day. It's just going to be fantastic to watch. I can't see what happens.
What are the X factors, or maybe it's just one X factor that determines which way you guys are leaning? What kind of swayed your pick? Garrett, let's start with you.
Yeah, so my decision making here is entirely based on Oregon's defense, right? My X factor is Oregon's defense. It's the fact that these teams are the top two passing offenses in the country. This is 1 and 2 respectively. And when you look at what they're able to do, both quarterbacks are going to be able to do what they want to do. But Bo Nix has been hot, Bo Nix has been on fire, and Michael Penix has gone a little bit cold. And it's a bad time for him to be going cold because this is a really good Oregon defense. It's a good Oregon defense against the pass. It's especially good against the run. And if you put Washington down, right, if they're down a couple of scores early, that's, I think, chaos scenario for them, right? Because then the very good Oregon pass rush gets to get a chance to just, put their ears back and go. And I think that's a dangerous place for Washington to be. Additionally, and I want to point this out on the turnover part, Washington's extremely good at getting turnovers. Bo Nix has thrown 2 interceptions all season. Neither of them were in the Washington game. And so it's maybe they get him, right? Maybe they go get a pick at this point in the season. I don't think it's there. I don't know if we want to get into predictions at this point, but
Yep.
I am going to go ahead and pick Oregon to cover this. I'm going ahead and pick Oregon to cover the 9.5 spread, specifically because I think Bo Nix is that level of good and he's going to be able to take care of the football, put his team in a position to win, and be dynamic enough to come out on top of this. I think it's a big win. I think they know they need it too. I think they don't want to leave any doubt in the committee's mind that they belong in and they belong in the playoff discussion, and they belong in when they make that decision on Sunday. So I think this is the Bo Nix Heisman moment. I think you're going to see one of those in this game. One of the just crazy escapes, throws across his body, Troy Franklin downfield, bang, there it is, right? And I think that you're going to see something like that in this game. And so I'm going to pick Oregon minus the 9.5, take care of business, and get in the playoff.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like Oregon is probably the better team as a whole, right? And I want to reward that this season. So I am going to roll with the Ducks, but I feel like we also have to give credit to Washington for going 12-0, for that survivor mentality, for finding a way to win week in and week out, no matter how the game goes. That's what's got me taking Washington plus the 9.5. I'm curious what swung it that way for you.
Yeah, but I said it on the recap show. You don't go 12-0 by accident. So this is a team that knows how to win. I think they're going to keep this one close. I think they're going to be up and ready to go for this one and probably play with a little more urgency than you've seen in quite some time, maybe since that last Oregon game. Like we can't overlook the fact that, it's been a letdown in the quality of opponent since that, other than playing USC. So, I am really interested to see. I think this is going to come down to which electric wide receiver, Troy Franklin of Oregon or Rome Odunze from Washington, is just a bigger mismatch problem, right? Like who steps up and makes the bigger plays, keeps the drive going, and, keeps their offense on the field when they need it the most. I think Washington's going to score too many points for this to be a 10-point game. I don't think Washington goes away lightly. So I'm leaning back and forth. I do think Oregon wins this one outright. I've been sticking to my guns and saying Washington gets it done week in and week out. I'm going to tilt there and say Oregon wins outright, but I do think it's a really fun back and forth game on Friday night that Washington covers.
Should be electric. It is a can't miss game if you are a college football fan. Friday night in prime time. Definitely make sure you tune in for that one.
Gracious, how about